ordinance number 556, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Angels repealing Chapter 2.50 of the Angels Municipal Code and repealing ordinance number 348 relating to the City Museum Commission.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Been on a little bit of a journey over the past number of weeks in trying to resolve various organizations. There is the museum itself, of course, and in the museum agreement that existed previously, there was discussion about the Museum Commission that had an oversight role of the museum itself, and then the Museum Foundation and how all these things work together. And as part of that, discovered that in 2021, the council voted to repeal the Museum Commission. But in doing that vote, it was not done as an ordinance. And so the ordinance still exists. So this is mostly a housekeeping measure. You have disbanded the commission. It doesn't exist. There are no members, but it still resides in the city ordinance. So this request is just simply the permission to remove it. And then there is no more commission. And then in things like our operations agreement that you'll see later, we can remove that because there is no reporting function to a commission that does not exist.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Any public comment? Any online?
Nothing online.
Bringing it back for a motion.
So moved. I'll second.
Roll call, Beacom.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Scott. Aye. Burley.
Aye.
Passes.
Moving on to 8D, agreement number 2621, Calaveras Visitors Bureau and the City of Angels agreement for the promotion of tourism. Michael.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. So transient occupancy tax, we're estimating for this year will be about $1.25 million. But of that, a small portion, $164,000, is set aside for the promotion of tourism. Historically, we have been doing that through, a large part of that through the Calaveras Visitors Bureau. And what we've done in the past was sort of a fixed number. What we'd like to do in the future is a more adjustable model. And so it is, in the past where it's 88,000, we'll do one which is 65% of the prior year's receipts with a floor, if you will, of 95,000. However, should we reach another COVID situation, or maybe it's a big fire, it could be anything, we do have the ability to back out of that if we don't have those TOT dollars to spend. And so you won't end up in a spot where we are committed to providing tourism dollars without the tourism dollars to offset that. And so the request is that the council approve this agreement in which we would provide a minimum of $98,000 or 64% of the TOT revenue from the prior year.
Any questions from the council?
I just would like some, there's a lot of anecdotal justification for spending this kind of money on the museum. I'd like to just have some more solid idea of how much do we think the museum brings in per year and how much does it benefit our city versus the county, you know, and just somehow to justify a large amount of money that goes to our tourism. We're not promoting bass tournaments. We're not promoting, you know, other ideas, concerts in the park, whatever. We're not doing that. We'll put it all toward the Visitors Bureau. And I just like to justify, are we getting a bang for the buck? You got to ask the question.
Councilman, I think I may have been unclear because I stumbled over this myself a few times, remembering that the museum and the Calaveras Business Bureau, although they do overlap in function at times because they also provide the operation of the museum, the TOT dollars are strictly for the Calaveras Business Bureau.
For the Angels Camp Museum.
I understand.
The fact that they happen to be housed at the museum is a confusing
This is just for CVB.
fact, but it is not considered those dollars, and they are limited to the promotion of tourism. So certainly I think there could be a great discussion on what else we might do. We do have the remaining funds, $70,000 or so that can be used for other things. We use those for the frog bucks and other things. So I mean that.
Because in Martin's presentation, it talked about percentages, but it never really talked about total dollars. And so I'm looking right now at total dollars, the 95,000. And I'm wondering how that fits into the pie chart, into the budget chart that was there.
So last year, Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong, we had 88,000 from the city. We get 350,000 from the county. We have a gift shop. Most of that money from the gift shop it all goes to the CVB, but we offset that because we give away a lot of things that are marketing tools. Shirts with our names on it, travel writers come in, etc. So the money that you're paying in TOT is that pie chart. I mean, ultimately it pays to have front of desk staff. It pays to promote and market our county. I mean, if you want a list of exactly who our vendors are and where that money goes, I mean, to NPR, I mean, in the past we've done Sacktown Magazine, we've done magazines in the Bay Area, local getaways. We do the Yosemite Magazine.
I'm looking for better answers on not what is spent, but what is generated. What kind of economic impact?
So there was a study that was done before I first came on board, that was done in 2019 that cost like $6,500 to do, which in my view, again, they took a sample size of everybody that went to our website and asked questions, and then they did a study, and ultimately they said for every dollar that we spend, we bring $45 into the community.
Are you asking specifically in the city limits? Or are you just saying?
I just feel like before we spend the $95,000 or establish a percentage of the TOT, that we should at least ask for some justification. You're providing that.
Okay.
But the question has to be asked, I feel like.
No. I'd like to make sure that I answer your question and and make sure that you know you are getting that bang for your buck.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment?
My name is Christopher Buttner, publisher of CalaverasWatchdog.com. Mayor, council members, for nearly 3 years I've appeared before this council, the mayor, the city manager, and the city attorney in writing and in oral comment raising one documented concern. The Calaveras Visitors Bureau has misrepresented its legal form to the city of Angels Camp. Let me begin with what the official right establishes, because these are matters of public documents, not opinion. First, the CVB was incorporated under California law as a nonprofit public benefit corporation on April 28, 2000, and was recognized by the IRS as a tax exempt under Section 501c6 of the Internal Revenue Code. Second, on May 20th, 2021, the California Attorney General issued its approval for the CVB to convert from a public benefit nonprofit corporation to a mutual benefit nonprofit corporation. That conversion became effective when amended articles of incorporation were filed with the Secretary of State on July 12, 2021, 5 years ago this month. Third, the CVB knows this history because it recites it every year on Schedule O of its own IRS Form 990 filings, on which Executive Director Martin Huberty is identified as principal officer. This is the CVB's representation in its own federal tax filings. Fourth, notwithstanding that 2021 conversion, the CVB's agreements with the City of Angels Camp continue to describe the organization inaccurately as a nonprofit association, while the city paid CVB hundreds of thousands of dollars of its transient occupancy tax revenue. Fifth, from July 2021 to July 2025, for 4 years, the record indicates the CVB operated without bylaws, conforming to its mutual benefit status while displaying obsolete pre-conversion bylaws on its public-facing GoCalaveras.com website. Sixth, for the city attorney's public records responses dated September 6, 2023 and September 27, 2023, the city cannot locate the signature documents for the 2019 and 2023 amendments to its own contract with the CVB. These are the documented facts. Here is what I allege based on these facts. I allege that this was not in error. An organization that accurately describes its conversion to the IRS every year while describing itself differently to the City of Angels Camp for years, even after I repeatedly raised the discrepancy, is, in my assessment, engaged in knowing misrepresentation. Mr. Huberty signed the federal tax filings that recite the true history. He was in a position to correct the record before the city. The record shows no correction was made until this month. I further note, as a matter of record, that on March 16, 2026, I filed a criminal complaint number 26000946 with the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office concerning these matters, naming Martin Huberty and the CBB Board of Directors President Susan Weatherby. I believe that filing is what precipitated the correction now on your agenda, an amended contract that for the first time in a quarter of a century states the CBB's legal form accurately. To this council, I say directly, for 3 years, my documented concerns were met with official silence. The public is entitled to ask and know why the City of Angels Camp did not act on credible evidence in its own possession, and whether that inaction facilitated the continuation of an inaccurate representation. Those are fair questions, and they will be asked in other forums. When this body votes today, and the mayor signs the amended July 1, 2026 contract, the city will have created additional probative evidence. I intend to submit that amendment as evidence to the CBB's long-term misrepresentation to date in sworn complaints to the California Department of Justice, the Secretary of State, the State Controller, the Franchise Tax Board, and the Fair Political Practices Commission, and to supplement the complaint I filed with the Internal Revenue Service in July 2025. My name is Christopher Buttner, publisher of Calaveras Watchdog.
Any other public comment? Anyone online?
Nothing on mine.
Okay, we'll bring it back for a motion.
I'll make a movement to agreement to 2621.
I'll second. Roll call, Behill.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Sharada.
Aye.
Scott. Aye. Berlia.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7E, agreement 26. 8E, thank you. Agreement 2622 and resolution 2668 approving a lease and operations agreement with the Calaveras Visitors Bureau for the operation of the Angels Camp.